A few years ago, I was living my absolute dream life. I lived on the beach in Australia, spent most of my days barefoot, spent many mornings swimming in the sea, watching the whales and the dolphins. I earned enough just to fund my travel and kind of get by, and I felt so free. Fast forward a little bit, the world shut down because of the pandemic, and I found myself volunteering at a wellness retreat center in Mexico. There was a beautiful international community. I was surrounded by nature, filled with such a sense of purpose, learning new healing modalities every day. And now I am back home in my hometown in the UK, in the house that I was born and raised with my parents, unemployed. And it was so disheartening to feel like I'd found my dream life and then it just slipped through my fingers and I'm kind of back to where I started. Now I'm 33, mostly still unemployed, still living with my parents, and I now have a baby. So my life is absolutely not what I would have expected. But what I will say is that I have found way more peace than I thought that I ever could in this situation. And so this video is for people, if you feel like you are absolutely not where you expected to be in life and you feel like you might have failed, as many people do, this is for you, because let's talk about it. It was quite an impulsive decision to go to Australia. Me and my partner were actually saving money for a house. And as time was going on, we kind of felt like something was missing. We weren't really fulfilled. And we felt like we needed to experience more and learn more before settling down. So really impulsively, the money that we were saving for the house, we decided to just up and just get a flight to Australia. And we did something called a working holiday visa, which is where you can kind of work a little bit to fund your travel and you can get that visa for up to 3 years. And we actually ended up staying there for 3.5 years due to some extensions that we got because of COVID. And then COVID happened, and obviously there were lockdowns that were going on in Australia as well. And so we kind of felt like it was our time to leave, but we still didn't want to go home. There was, more that we wanted to squeeze out of the experience. And so we started looking for volunteer opportunities. Mexico was open, and there was a great opportunity to volunteer at this wellness retreat center. So we jumped on a flight, went to Mexico, and honestly, it was incredible. It was one of the most amazing experiences that I've ever had in my entire life. It was very surreal, especially with what was going on in the world, to feel so kind of like locked in into this safe space. It was like 5 acres of land that was owned by this lovely Mexican woman who, bit by bit over the years, had created this eco holistic retreat. They had just started doing retreats for Mexicans and Americans with all kinds of modalities. They had horses there, they had donkeys, and kind of our roles there were just really to look after the animals, help prepare things for the retreats, and just kind of look after the people. It was really, really a great experience. But after all that, what is so crazy is that I kind of, at the time, didn't really think too far into the future. I think when you're traveling, you kind of get swept up in the current and you just think that you're going to be doing that forever. But as an English person in Australia and in Mexico, the visa only lasts for so long. And then you really have to come back and face the reality. When I was in Australia, I'd started studying in lockdown. I'd kind of decided that the corporate world was no longer for me. I'd started painting again and dancing and kind of getting into all the sort of things that I loved when I was a kid. And I decided that I wanted to change my career. So we're in lockdown. I'm at home all the time. I'm working from home, but I decided to study also. And so I started studying holistic creative arts therapy. And this course I was studying all up until the end of my time in Australia. And when I got to Mexico, I was given such an incredible opportunity to teach art therapy classes. I trialed them a little bit here and there with the volunteers and then with some of the Mexican guests that would come, and then people loved them. And so I was given an incredible opportunity to run an art therapy session for these huge retreats that they'd started doing there with Americans and English people coming over. And my class would be on the first day. And it was great. I literally felt like I'd landed on my feet. I'd had this incredible experience in Australia. I was in Mexico during the pandemic teaching art therapy. Like, this was my absolute dream. But as things do, all good things come to an end, and our visa was running out. Weirdly, 1 month after arriving at the centre, one of the most gorgeous street dogs I've ever seen in my life appeared. And bear in mind, we're volunteering. Slowly our savings are dwindling down. But we fell in love with this dog, and this dog fell in love with us. And we kept saying, right, we'll just look after him. You know, he can stay in our room. We'll feed him and etc. And he ended up being with us all the way to the end of our stay. And we started to run out of money. Our visa ran out. And we said, we have to go home. But this dog and us were so attached that we couldn't imagine leaving without him. So broke, we decided to do a GoFundMe, and I had to swallow a lot of pride to do that. It really felt like we had no other choice. There's a running joke in the kind of town that we were living in that if you send a dog to the shelter, that they're going to be turned into tacos because there's just not enough room for all of them. And so this beautiful dog, I was trying to see if I can put a picture in of him. Yeah, we fell so in love that we wanted to bring him back. And so we did a GoFundMe. We brought him back with us. But there was nowhere else to go other than our parents' house. Luckily, my parents left the door open. They left a space for me. I was able to come here. My mum, who doesn't usually like dogs, allowed us to bring the dog here, which they also fell in love with the dog. So I'm so grateful. We raised enough money to bring him over here, and he lives an incredible life here. But that is a story for another time. And so, yeah, I was 30 then when we first came back. And originally, I didn't think that I was going to be there for as long as I have been, or be here, let's say. I was expecting to come back, get a job, and then move in with my fiance of 10 years, and just start our life. But things kind of didn't turn out as we expected. I didn't expect, firstly, when I came back home to be hit with so much of a reality check. I think what had happened is, living in Australia, the lifestyle is so different to over here in the UK. And not only that, but living in a wellness retreat centre, which is kind of closed off land to the normal world, living with these volunteers, it's very surreal. We actually kind of lost touch with reality a little bit because we're kind of living this fantasy life. So coming back to the UK it actually hit me so much harder than I thought it would. And it actually had a really big impact on my confidence. So even though I'd been away and I'd changed my career and I'd studied doing this creative arts therapy, which is my dream role, when I came back to the UK, it kind of felt like it was not so realistic anymore. In Mexico, we were surrounded by people that kind of fueled into each other's dreams, right? We believed that we could do anything. Let's just create this and do this. And it was so magical. But back home, it's kind of a little bit more practical, and people are a little bit more skeptical of holistic modalities and things like that. And so it really knocked my confidence. And whereas when I first came back, I thought, right, I'm creating a business. I'm going to be doing all of these classes like I have been in Mexico, and it's going to be easy, and this is how I'm going to make my money now. It didn't quite happen that way. Not only that, but obviously we had this dog, this super active dog that requires hours of walking every day. My partner, luckily, got a job straight away, great paying job. And so we decided between us that I would stay at home for a little while and not just jump back into any job. Before I left to go to Australia, I was a corporate girly, really good in the office, but it did cause me a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. And my partner had kind of watched me grow and expand so much when we were away that he also didn't want me to just jump back straight into something that wasn't in my best interest before. He wanted me to hold out and to kind of follow my heart with a career path, and to look after our dog that we'd had and to walk him. And not only that, but we moved back in with my parents, who are 70 and 69 now. They've had a lot of health issues over the years, and they live in a big house that is very hard for them to upkeep and to look after. And so it just seemed in all of our best interest for me to stay at home, spend the days walking the dog, looking after the house, uh, making beautiful meals from scratch every day, but also to be working on my business, which I did. I started working on creating social media and a little bit of website and still studying. But the biggest battle, honestly, was bringing my confidence back up because I'd really lost it coming back home. It's very strange because you can feel like you are a new person when you travel because you're in a new place with maybe a better quality of life, different lifestyle. But the real test when you come back home is trying to maintain all of those things that you've learned, but here. And so it's a real test, really, of how much you've grown and how much you've changed if you can still maintain that where you left. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, what actually ended up happening is I ended up falling pregnant. That's a story for another day of how that happened, but my partner had been together for 10 years. It was unexpected, absolutely welcomed. I'm so in love with our daughter. It was one of the best things genuinely that has ever happened to me. But now I find myself back home, living with my parents, unemployed, and with a baby. Yeah. So it was a huge whirlwind with preparing for the baby. It's so wild because she now is in the bedroom that I was in as a child, and I am staying in the room that I was in as a teenager. And it's very, very surreal to see her, being raised in the house that I was raised in. Um, and I just wanted to kind of share my story because on paper, to a lot of people, the kind of situation that I'm in would seem like a failure as such. Some people would say, I'm 33, back at home, unemployed, and living with a baby, and a dog, a Mexican dog. But that honestly is not my reality. I've had so many realizations through this experience that I feel like I need to share. Firstly, no matter where you are in the world and no matter what setting, you will take your humanness with you. And what I mean by that is that there were times when I was living my absolute dream life in Australia, and there were days where I was completely miserable still, and not even necessarily circumstantial, but just the ever-changing moods of a human and the ever-changing moods of a woman and ever-changing perspectives and things that are outside of our control will still inevitably push our moods into a variety of chaotic ways, no matter where we are. And so there were days when I was living this beautiful life on the beach where I was crying and upset and maybe even crying myself to sleep or didn't want to get out of bed. And on the flip side of that, there are days where I've been at home in my hometown, my little town, which is like nothing to shout about. It really isn't. And there are days where I have felt blissful, where I'm just out walking my dog, saying hello to people that walk by, sitting by the water. And I felt incredible. Um, a big part of that is having time. I have so realized the importance of time. Any decisions that we make come with a benefit and a disadvantage, probably, right? So, for example, living at home feels like a failure to a lot of people, but I have the benefit of, you know, not having huge expenses. Despite that, also, I have a better relationship with my parents than I ever have. Before leaving to go away, I think my mom couldn't actually wait to get rid of me. And obviously, I've gone away and I've changed so much that coming back has been a nice welcome surprise for them, where, I kind of have more impact on the household, which maybe I didn't have so much before, because I have more time, less stress. I'm able to kind of contribute in different ways. So even though I'm not necessarily contributing financially, I'm contributing a lot of my energy into the household, the beautifying of the space, the beautiful meals, the laughter, the creativity. And it made me realize that there's many other ways that we can create impact than just our productivity and our financial input. Um, I'm grateful that I have a partner that supports kind of this situation, and also my parents. They appreciate the input that I have. And more recently, I've noticed that the biggest impact, or the biggest kind of blessing that has come from this situation, is that I'm literally rewiring my childhood. So growing up, there could be blazing rows and all kinds of things that would happen in my teenhood. Um, Things that were unsaid between my parents and I. I felt like I've come back and I'm rewiring what the biggest memories have been in this house. It's almost like repainting the energy over the household. And not only that, but I have a daughter now. And I watch my daughter with my mom and dad every day, and I watch how she fills them up with a sense of life and, a push to get up in the morning. And there's something so, so magical about that. And so, yeah, I just wanted to kind of share that that's my situation. Um, I every now and again I still kind of feel like, oh, that was such a beautiful life that I was living. Like, can you believe it? And like now I'm just back home. Am I doing all the same old stuff? But it's not like that. And I think there's a quote, and I don't know exactly the words, but it's by C.K. Chesterton, and it describes that the whole point of travel is to return to your homeland as a foreign land. So I'm the foreign land. I've gone away and I've learned all of these things. And the biggest gift that I can give to myself and the people I love is to bring all of that stuff that I've learned and share that with them here, because they need that also. Maybe the people that weren't able to travel and have all of these experiences can kind of live that through me. And it's been a really beautiful blessing to be able to do that. And I just want to kind of get this message out there, just because I know that there's other people out there that are in the same situation as me. You might be in your 30s, you could even be in your 40s. And for whatever reason, you might have found yourself back at home with your parents, and you might feel really not very good about that. And just to say that it's okay, it's actually okay. And it's more common than you think. Ironically, my best friend of 20 years that I went to school with is back at home with her parents down the street. And she works 4 hours a day, similarly for the same reasons as me, where she wants to have more time and kind of spend that time doing things that she really enjoys. She doesn't want to be a slave to a job that she really doesn't enjoy. And again, she's fortunate. Her parents welcome her back. She contributes in other ways to the household, the gardening, the cooking, and they love having her here and knowing all the things that she's learned. And so I just wanted to say, you're not the only one. It's okay. And yes, I'm not going to be here forever. I'm definitely in a much more progressive place than I was when I first came back, working on my business, so much more confident, great relationship with my parents, to the point where if I was to leave now, I would feel so much better about my relationship with them than I did when I left to go to Australia. You know, I don't really know how much longer that my parents have. And I know that sounds kind of morbid, but you have to think about these things when they get to that kind of age and they're sickly. You know, once they're gone forever. And I'm going to be able to look back on these years so fondly and with so much appreciation that I had a second chance to live so intimately with them, and share all these things that I've learned, and to watch them with my daughter, not just visiting on the weekend, but every day, to get to share their time with her, that my daughter's running into their bedroom, jumping on their bed and saying good morning. And so, yeah, I just wanted to put this out there. And I've got many stories as to living in Australia, living in Mexico, having a rescue dog, having a daughter, creative arts therapy. There's a million things that I can post videos on, and maybe will in the future. If you would like to hear about it, actually, put a comment down. But yeah, I just wanted to pass that message on, and I hope you guys have a beautiful day, and I'll speak to you soon.